Hey guys, this is Jason. I'm reviewing Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, a new documentary that got released recently. It is directed by Ian Bonholte and Peter Battagui. I'm sorry if I got that name wrong. And this documentary looks into the life of Christopher Reeve before and after his horse ride accident in 1995. It also looks into his life in the 70s before he got cast as Superman in the Richard Donner film, where we see his struggles that he had to go through, where we also see him paralyzed from his accident and dedicate his life to finding a cure for people with this paralyzed problem. And we also learn that everything he went through made him the man that his family knew him as before he tragically passed away. Christopher Reeve, for me, is the best live-action Superman in movie history. Some could say Henry Cavill is the best, and I do like Henry Cavill's take as Superman, and Brandon Routh's take was okay. As for David Cornsweet, we'll have to wait and see next year with James Gunn's Superman film. But Christopher Reeve, he has some more that those actors didn't have, and that is he was able to embody both Superman and Clark Kent and Kal-El very well, to the point where it made you believe that he was the man that could fly. And this is also the second documentary of Superman I've seen. The first one I did watch was called The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened. That documentary was about the failed production Superman Lives that was going to be directed by Tim Burton, written by Kevin Smith, and starring Nicolas Cage as Superman, and showing how the plans for that film fell apart, which I do recommend watching The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened if you haven't yet. It is a really good documentary. And I was curious to watch this documentary as a fan of his Superman, but I'm not really into documentaries a whole lot. They're just not my thing. And there are some that I really enjoyed, like Won't You Be My Neighbor, but documentaries aren't really for me. They're not my type of genre. But I was still interested in watching this documentary because I'm a fan of the Superman character and I love Reeves' portrayal as that character. I finally got a chance to watch it, and this movie's amazing. This movie is not only one of the best documentaries I've seen, but it's one of the best movies I have seen in a long time. This is a very fascinating and emotional documentary where you learn a lot about Christopher Reeves' life and the struggles that he went through, where we learn a lot about that from the perspective of his three kids, Whoopi Goldberg, Glenn Close, Susan Sarandon, and Jeff Daniels, and so on, where they explain more about what made him a big actor and a good person later on, where we see footage of him trying to do Broadway at one point, and we see that his career is going strong after he became Superman. We see him grow more of that fame and see him become close friends with Robin Williams. A lot of that stuff they talk about is in there, but they also talk about the serious stuff and all the problems that he went through. Seeing him go through all the struggles and the people that he lost along the way, and seeing them go through all the problems after the accident as well, definitely showed that this documentary was not afraid to get serious, making this documentary show that it didn't shy away from all the problems and the mistakes that Reeves made along the way, where we get to learn more about the mistakes that he made and what those mistakes made him a better person afterwards. Like, there was this one time where Christopher Reeve wanted to do other things in the film industry, not just Superman, because Superman was the only thing people recognized him from, which unfortunately all the stuff that he got outside of Superman didn't do all that well for him, so he was stuck playing the character for another few years until Superman 4. So he was one of those actors that was trying to break out of this one role that he was known for and trying to do other things, but sadly most of the stuff he's gotten didn't really pay off. And I think a lot of actors in today's time, in particular the ones from Marvel and DC, can relate to that, because in today's time there are some actors from both Marvel and DC that have been trying to break out of that. Some have managed to succeed at that, but there are still some that are struggling to do so, because with some of the actors that have broken out, like Robert Downey Jr. for instance, for a long time a lot of people knew him as Iron Man. Now people know him as an Oscar-winning actor for movies like Oppenheimer, but there have been some Marvel and DC actors that have yet to break out of that, like Chris Hemsworth for instance, where yes, he's great as Thor, but can you think of Chris Hemsworth in anything else besides Thor? Probably not. And the idea of Reeve trying to break out of that Superman spotlight and doing something different showed that that problem has been going on since the very beginning. They also talk more about the other struggles that he went through, like some of the mistakes that he made that end up unfortunately make his life worse. But over time, those mistakes slowly made him into a better person, and after his horrible accident in 1995, both him and his family go through a lot of tough times, and we see him try to get back into the spotlight and try to help other disabled people out there. And all of that showed that he was being a good person trying to help disabled people, which technically made him Superman in real life. And that shows that these people were being honest about what they felt about Reeve and what was going on in his life. They weren't making up any biased or exaggerated stuff that wasn't even true at all. They were being completely honest with how they felt about him. And that's what I loved about this documentary. It looks into both the good and the bad of Reeve in his life in a very honest way. And I'm gonna be honest, the first 14 minutes of this documentary, I almost teared up with everything that they were setting up for the story and what they were gonna talk about with his accident. It almost brought me to tears, and I had to pause the movie for a moment just to breathe and get myself ready for the rest of the documentary. But when we got to the end and was wrapping everything up afterwards, I was an emotional wreck. Like, this movie made me cry for a while, and I haven't been that emotional with a film in so long. It is very rare for me. And if you ever decide to watch this documentary, bring a box of tissue afterwards, because it is that emotional. This is an amazing documentary where it was honest about the good and the bad that was happening in Reeves' life. It has people that were being honest about how they felt about him. It shows all the struggles that he went through in the film industry, and it gives you a big emotional punch at the end. If you love Superman and you love Christopher Reeves' portrayal as the character, I recommend watching this movie. Go watch it after this video. Go watch this documentary on Max right now. It is definitely worth watching. For me, this is one of the best documentaries I've seen in a long time, up there with Won't You Be My Neighbor. And this is coming from someone who's not big into documentaries, but this for me is one of my favorite documentaries I have seen. It's one of the best movies in 2024, and there is not one thing in this documentary that I didn't like, which is why I am happy that I finally get to say this. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, gets an A+. And that's honestly crazy for me because documentaries aren't my thing, but this managed to be one of my favorite movies of the year, and it's a movie I am gonna remember for a long time. Guys, if you have seen this documentary, what did you think about it? Do you think it's great and it pays respect to Christopher Reeve, or do you think that this film wasn't that great? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like this video and you love Christopher Reeve as Superman, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.